While I'm double checking to make sure everything's good, is there anything that so the way I typically start off a VOD review is by asking the student if there's anything in the game that was giving them particular trouble, either something you were doing that the enemy team was doing, or that your team was doing that you couldn't deal with very well.
Mm. I don't know, just not sure about it.
Not particularly.
Yeah, nothing particular.
All right. Well, we can just get right into it then.
Whoa.
Let's see. You guys' comp is interesting. So you're going to be wanting to play pretty safe because you're not going to be diving in at all with this. Like, I mean, you might if your diva wants to, but in general, you're going to want to be playing relatively safe and not super crazy aggressive. Let's see if you flash it up again.
Start up here, or
Yeah.
we can jump down later.
I think it's chilling. Set up down there.
Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Hey, there's Reinhardt.
Okay, what was the melee just a misclick?
Not sure. I think so. I think it's like the mouse thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a mouse glitch.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't think you wanted to melee at that range. When it comes to Helix though, we'll watch how you Helix.
I think I tried a Helix and it glitched the mouse.
Okay, but when you go for a Helix rocket, you typically want to use it as a final blow because if you invest Helix, especially into a target like Reinhardt, and he lives, then you've used Helix and then fed a bunch of healing to the enemy team. So like what you did was shoot at him some, Helix, and then shoot at him some. The ideal scenario would be to shoot at him and then Helix for the final. Against a Reinhardt, it's a little tricky because sometimes he can shield, which in this case happened right here, like afterwards. So
He's one.
you see how
Also,
you see
quick
how he
question.
lived? Yeah.
Usually Reinhardt has armor, and I've heard that Helixing is better first for armors.
Helixing does burst down armor, but as soldier, the armor isn't a super big deal for you. It is annoying, but it's not the biggest deal. Like, if there's like a Brig and she's ulted and you're trying to kill a squishy, Helixing to get rid of the armor is a better idea. But on Reinhardt, it's not as big of one because you'd rather use it to get the final blow on him and like ensure that he's dead rather than work on getting the final blow bit, or work on getting the armor down.
Yeah. Shoot. One second, I'm reloading. Oh, no, it's fine. I got health back.
Yeah, so see, if you did that in the reverse order, it worked out in this case against the soldier, but you'd want to be shooting and then use your Helix for the final blow. You can do it like what you're doing.
Brigade up top.
Oh, the Brigade, you're right. You can do it how you're doing it, but it's typically riskier because if they get hit with the Helix, they're going to play more safe. But if they're at 120, for example, they might not play as safe. Helixing the shield isn't
Zarya.
terrible because you're not going to get a whole lot of value from shooting anyone behind it, at least at this point, because the push is pretty much done. But you're doing a good job of using your Helix pretty much on cooldown. You need to use your healing field more though. Like you're at 141, you should just pop down your healing field
I know we can combo.
at any point.
I'll be next to you.
Like you didn't grab the mini either. So watch your, there you go. Watch your HP more. If they'd have pushed somewhere in there, you would have been weaker than you should have had to be.
They're gonna right.
One thing you can do too is, since you're up here with your Ana, she's getting Moira
They're
ball.
gonna right.
Look at her HP when the ball finishes. Wait for it. She's taking a few ticks, which isn't a super big deal, but for an Ana, you don't want to make her have to use her nade to heal herself or drop back down to get the mini. So if you just pop down your healing field and then get out of there, then you'll keep her alive for a little bit longer. Same thing with yourself. Now that you've been tagged, like you might as well plop that down.
Soldier one.
God dang it.
Okay. So for the visor, let's go through this bit by bit. So visoring right here is First of all, you can expect that they're not going to be shielding much because Ryan is nanoed and he's going to be wanting to play more aggressive with the nano. But at the same time, you're not close enough to make decent use of your visor. You'd rather be up here for it because then you can see everyone that's down here as well as everyone that's down that choke. Right here, all they have to do is back behind anything over here and they're safe. That said, you're not using this pull for a whole lot of cover. You've done it in the past, but as soon as you visor, you stop. Like the high noon, I think you thought you killed him, but he obviously still alive. So even if, like, as soon as you hear the high noon, you should be sitting right up against this pole. If you have to waste a lot of or all of your visor to stay alive against the high noon, that's better than playing way too aggressive and then dying to the high noon, because at this point, they've invested nano and high noon in this fight, so they want to win. If you can get any value out of your visor, that's good, but at the same time, you don't want to die trying to get value out of it, because then their push is going to be a whole lot easier.
This old dog's learned a few tricks.
See, there you finally use your healing field. I think that's almost one of the first times in the whole game that you have. This little bit right here where you're just poking, it's fine. Your target selection on the Ryan is fine. You should be trying to kill him first. That said, when the soldier comes, you pretty much, let's see. Yeah, you take a little bit of damage and immediately leave. You don't get the mini, which you should have. I'm guessing you don't get that mini either. Your biggest thing right now seems to be that you don't pay attention to your health very much, if at all. Or, you know, especially paying attention to using your E. You don't use it, like, ever. If you're not using your E, then you're missing out on a crucial part of Soldier's kit, and you're basically playing, like, a slightly different McCree. One of Soldier's best things is that he can self-heal and heal his team if he needs to.
You gotta be kidding me, that McCree has a good shot.
Again, with the Helix to initiate. I don't know how you killed him. When did you use your healing field? It's like... Oh, okay, yeah. So you used healing field when you were pretty much full. So the way you want to use healing field is when you either expect an engagement to happen or you're in the middle of one. And the way you want to place it, it hasn't become important right now, but if, say, we're looking at a top-down view, right? There's, like, this, like, thing here, right? There's, like, a hallway. You're standing right here. You want to put your healing field right on the edge so that the field kind of does this, so that you can still get healed if you're on the inside or if you need to push out to the outside. But if you're, let's say, in the same spot and you put your healing field here, then if you cross like that line and you decide to go more aggressive, you're not going to get healed from it as well. Or let's say it was hugging closer to the corner. Basically, you need to have a line of sight with it for it to work properly. So, like, scoot up a bit. Let's see if there's an example. Like right here, you drop it essentially where you're standing, so that if you're standing right here, you get healed while you're looking out there, but you also get healed if you need to go back for cover. Again, if you were used to using your Helix for a final blow, you wouldn't have shot yourself there, because you would have had to realize that you were going to shoot somebody. So right there, if you put your healing field right up here, you could still get healed while you back away from the high ground, but also still get some while you're doing this. You do a lot of micro poking, so like you'll go out, you'll shoot a bit, you'll helix, and you'll peek back. You're super reliant on your helix, and if that's like your best part of your soldier kit, you might want to just pick up Pharah, because she's just all helix, and you won't have to worry about your healing field at all. I don't know if that's something you've thought about at all, but interesting. So I wouldn't have committed Visor here because your team doesn't look like they need it. Like, it doesn't look like the enemy's pushing super hard on point. And again, you're at 117 HP when you do this. You need to make sure you're a lot closer to full when you do. When you drop down, dropping down onto this is probably the right thing to do so that you can see this soldier all the time. But then you drop off of it again, and then you can keep playing Ring Around the Rosie with him, and he'll stay alive, and this Moira can kill you while you're trying to do that. So the way this engagement should have gone is stay up at high ground, plop down your healing field when you get low. You see the soldier, you decide to Visor for whatever reason, and then you commit to it by staying at full health because you're in your field. As soon as soldier goes behind the little box down here, then you drop onto the box, and then you keep Visor on him, kill him, and then kill the Moira. Or kill the Moira first, depending on how good she is at hitting you with her Coalescence or who she's going for.
I've got you in my sights.
But you see how it would have worked if you had full health and then stayed on top of the thing?
Yeah. Again, I think I'm not paying attention to my health.
Oh yeah, for sure you're not.
Nice.
I also haven't seen you press tab all that often. The more you press tab, the more you can figure out who's respawning, when they're respawning. Like if they just cap point, you can figure out who's getting good or bad spawn. You know, you could have just taken the elevator for there. But you also get like, you know, your team's ult charge, all that, so you can tell if you even need to Visor in a fight. That's a situation where helixing is fine,
Reaper
just like
uplift.
trying to get someone through a corner.
Got you healed, got you.
At this point, you should go back up to the spot you were previously at because soldiers fall off. It's not terrible, but at the same time, you're not Widow. This is like the Widow spot. This is the Soldier McCree Hanzo spot. So you want to be making use of your closer damage than you would be your far because, you know, trying to hit someone who's that big way back there is considerably harder. Plus, you have to burst fire, and then you're still vulnerable to long range stuff. So if you're, let's see, if you're still up here, you can get like sniped by a Widow who's back there. If you're up here, you can get sniped by a Widow. If you're up here, you can get Hanzo'd. If you're up here, you can get Hanzo'd. So there's not really any defensive difference other than just being further away from being dived. But they have shown absolutely zero history of diving you, so you can position more aggressively. Like I said, to play a little safe because your team doesn't jump in, but that doesn't mean that you can't.
Reaper top left on the roof.
That doesn't mean that you can't play a little bit more aggressive than you currently are.
You should play a little more back, I think, you know.
Wow.
Where was the rest of the team?
I don't quit.
Diana, where's the rest of your team? Dude, the hell got fucking clapped. Yeah, see? There's an example of you helixed him and it immediately got healed off. So now you're down a helix and this Ana's closer to Nano. Yes, I think it was their Ana that healed them up. I don't know, even press tab. Yeah, it was her.
Yeah, I did that trap. Right going left. McCree.
Again, if you shot him and then fired it right as he went on the corner, you might have killed the McCree. First of all, you're doing this whole bit with like half ammo, which I think, did you start the reload animation then just cancel it? It looked like you did. No. There you go. So, I don't know what your plan was there. I guess to just contest or something, but running straight through a point like that isn't something you want to be doing as Soldier because then you're going from a decent position here to a much worse position over there.
Yeah, I was just trying to stall it, not let it move.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell that, but at the same time, if you're going to stall, you should like run in, plop down healing field, and then just try and kill as many people as you can instead of just running through it. Because you just run through and Reaper's like, okay. And as soon as you get into your little corner that you put yourself in, you can't even go anywhere or contest the cart. So the Reaper's just got you for free. When you're running away in a straight line like this, you can like wiggle your crosshair back and forth, so Soldier will end up taking a little zigzag path. It doesn't really matter much against a Reaper, but if you're being chased by somebody who's precision, like McCree or Widow, it can actually help, or like Tracer sometimes. Just like get in the habit of like shaking back and forth as you go. Not super fast like that, but I don't know. I can't explain the cadence of it.
Yeah, I know what you
Yeah,
mean.
just do the little wiggle. You can also look down at the ground if you're trying to be Widow or McCree, because that makes your head harder to hit.
Here, I'm basically trying to contest the high ground.
Yeah. But at the same time, whenever you get pressured by this Reaper, you just immediately leave. So you're not really contesting the high ground. It's more of you should have the high ground, but he's contesting you. So he's the one who's winning this right now. Like this whole time, you haven't contributed to the fight other than just distracting this Reaper a bit. And he's probably hiding up here for, like, Death Blossom anyway. So, like, since you've seen him up here, you should tell your team, like, hey, Reaper might have Death Blossom. This is a good spot to visor, so you should stay up here for as long as you can. Again, you see how every time you helix initially, this dude figured it out pretty quick. So anytime he sees you, he just wraith forms immediately to basically eat your helix, and then you've got nothing when he gets actually up close to you. Like you could have helixed when he was around that corner to get the free damage, but as soon as he peeks around and he sees you haven't helixed, he knows that okay, this dude's gonna helix me instantly. And when you do, he just wraith forms. It's your job to basically bait out his Wraith form and then use your Helix as a final blow. I was about to say you shouldn't visor here because pretty much your entire team is dead. You can't really save this. If the best thing to do would be to go back up onto high ground and then just try and pressure them as much as you can from up there. Wait for your team to respawn, and then once they respawn, then you can visor. You might not have time for that, but you see how Reinhardt can just turn his shield to you and there's nothing you can do. It's the same sort of thing as with Tracer and Genji, where you need to make sure that you're not the only thing they're dealing with, especially if they've got a shield like a Ryan or an Orisa or a Diva, because then they'll just, or like a Winston, they'll just completely shut you down, and your ult's totally worthless. But if they were trying to push cart and win that final fight, and Ryan was busy swinging or trying to build or shatter or whatever he wants to do, that's when you can visor and pick off everybody from behind or from the behind-ish of this high ground, or drop down from up here and then actually visor.
Yeah, my ults were not that good in this game.
Oh, you should have popped healing field there. When you're running away, this is okay because you don't have healing. Right here you should pop it because you're low and you absolutely need to. And then you can, you can use the little tiny bit of corner for cover if you can. But, that fight was pretty much done because your visor didn't get much value and your team came back to, the exact same team that steamrolled them before.
One. Attack commencing. Capture objective A. Enemy contact.
Again, they've got a soldier. Initiating with Helix is especially because you don't know where he's going. He might not even stay up there. He should, but he didn't. He just moved out of the way to dodge your Helix. And what? I think is that the same dude who is Reaper? Good use of burst fire there, by the way. You didn't just full out of that. You can play further up than you currently are. Like, they're not going to have shatter, so you don't need to worry about that. You can be not necessarily right up at this corner, but you can be a lot closer so that once shield does drop, you'll be in a better spot to hit more people and to deal more damage to those more people, if that makes any sense. It's kind of hard to explain, but play a little further up so that you can optimize as soon as that shield does drop. See, now you're having to play catch up with them. If you were playing right up next to them, you could have just walked right in.
Ryan down.
See, that's how you should use Helix on this Moira. This is how it should work, right? You see
Ryan
Moira,
down.
you burst her down, boom.
Moira down.
Super easy. Like, you can get so many picks if you use Helix, like, to finish them. So when you're going up against a McCree like this, you're sprinting around a lot of corners, and that's super risky. Like,
I think I saw him using his flashbang.
let me see.
Ryan down. Moira down.
No, you don't know for sure whether he used it or not. From that.
Or maybe
short
because
time.
it was low, I was thinking. I don't know.
But if you sprint around that corner, you don't have your weapon up, and since you don't have Helix, you can't use it to burst him down. The way to do this would be to chip him down while he's up top, right about here, right? Chip him down, and then sprint up a tiny bit of these stairs, like up to here-ish. And then as soon as you're about to round this corner, that's when you stop sprinting so that you can see him and then immediately Helix melee if he's within range, or just Helix in general. And that way you get your full 120 burst in, like, and if he does stun you, your Helix will hit him and it'll just kill him, and you'll just take the stun damage rather than the full wombo combo. You see, like, if you waited right at this corner, he could just stun you right as you're jumping around, and you'd be rip.
Sorry.
Yeah, see, there you go. There's another better use of your healing field. See how you're using it when you're in an engagement and it keeps you alive along with your Ana, even though you're antied. Nice. Sitting up here for Visor is, I don't see it happen very often, but it's pretty funny. I don't think they're gonna commit to another fight here, but if they did, it'd be a hilarious spot to Visor from.
Objective A.
Rip.
Escort the payload.
Again, right here, throw it on healing field, or give the healing to your Ana, something like that. But you need to watch your HP a lot more. You also need to reload because you're 4 bullets down.
Bonano.
So what that soldier did is helix you initially, and notice how he didn't kill you and you're low, and you just disengage, and he didn't kill you. Easy peasy. If he hit you a few more times and then helix, you would have been dead. That's what it looks like from the enemy's perspective, basically. You shouldn't Visor here, because everybody's dead, basically. Good job falling back. I wouldn't look at this corner. Like, if you look this way, your gun sticks out a little bit. But if somebody comes around this corner, you're going to be 100% not prepared for it. So, yeah. Okay, so you can...
Okay, Ryan is on your right. Ryan is on your right.
I was just about to say, call that out. That's good.
Diving. On your right. On your right. Behind. He's one.
Better use of Helix while he's charging. Still wasn't for the final blow, but it's more appropriate than if he's just walking, because you know he can't shield it. Oh, 1 bullet. Oh, the reload managements. While you're visoring, you should reload pretty much whenever. Like, right, so we'll wait for it. Right here, just reload. Like, reloading in visor is so quick that you should pop it pretty much whenever there's not a time where you're shooting, because you're not sacrificing much and you'll keep up your firing time as much as possible. There's soldiers who just hold down left click. I don't think that's the right way to do it, because then you're wasting bullets. But at the same time, like, you totally could have killed that dude if you had more than 1 bullet in your clip. Even if you just had like 3.
Yeah. Kill her? I'm on her right now.
Ah, dang it, this Ryan, man.
This old dog's
This Ryan.
its hand.
Okay, so right here, look at your team. They're all dead, and different amounts have died, or respawning, I should say. My grammar's garbage right now. I don't know what's going on. I'm really tired. But on play, you've only got 1 person. No idea who it is right now.
Well, at least I reflected
Okay, so it's your Ana. Now she's dead. So you've got your main tank down, your support down. I think, do you have a second one? I don't remember. And then your Genji, and then everybody else. So, like, don't engage here. You need to get the hell out of there.
Let's regroup, let's regroup.
Good. Glad you're getting the hell out of there.
Okay.
Good job keeping your crosshair at, like, body level. I was reviewing a Tracer VOD where they were looking at the ground all the time. So your crosshair placement's solid. You're not keeping it too high, you're not keeping it too low. At least you used healing field. Interesting time to use it. I wouldn't have used it there. I would have used it like as you got up here. But you know.
Here I fell.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think you meant to fall there, but if you did mean to fall, you shouldn't have. Okay, good. I was just about to say, when you get grabbed, throw on healing field. I'm glad you're doing that. It doesn't mean much in this case, but it sometimes can mean something.
Could be great ult charge.
Yeah, tons of ult charge for you. Sometimes it'll keep your team alive. It's, you know, it's a little tiny thing, but it can matter. In that case, they went all out on that grav, so it didn't matter much. But if it's one of those gravs where they're just using grav and not much else, then you're good to go. I'm glad you're looking around while you're taking this elevator. The situational awareness is better while you're doing that. A minor little thing with this Helix. You see how it knocks the Rhine away from your Rhine? Helix has that little like booping effect. So if you are going to Helix somebody who's down, Helix on this upper half of him so that it knocks him into your Rhine, if anything. It's not super important, but if he lived that, that would have felt really bad. See, Helix for the final blow. Easy. I still wouldn't have dropped for that. You didn't necessarily have to, but I guess it worked. Like, it was just cleanup. I haven't said my little phrase yet, but a lot of soldiers use their ults as, like, fight openers, and I don't agree with that. My phrase is that you should use Visor like a Swiffer and just clean up anybody that's left. Like, after their main tanks and off tanks are dead, then you can just clean up every squishy.
Actually, in that point, we were like 2 versus 3.
Well, the point is that, like, you use that Visor to clean up the fight and put it towards your favor, rather than, like, right now if you Visored, it would be, like, as the team fight was still progressing. And it's like, eh. Or, like, people will, like, run into choke and then Visor and then run in front of their Rhine to try and kill people. And it's like, I mean, you know, it works, but it doesn't. I was gonna say, how did you live that long? Jesus. You played kind of a weird angle here. I wouldn't go into here. If you're falling back anywhere, I would fall back towards the Mega, back under the stairs, because that gives you, you know, a solid health pack, and it's not pushing you further into where they're respawning, like where this McCree is.
Yeah.
Since you guys got the checkpoint and they're super far pushed up, you can capitalize on this. Sort of, I guess. Never mind. I was gonna say you can play the spawns, but everybody's kind of trickled right now, so you can't get a solid push out. Whomst? I just heard a doodle-doodle-doo. I need to check stream. What was it? Hey, Holden's hosting me. Thanks, dude. I got the one viewer. Look at that. But anyway, let's look at the Visor real quick. So Visoring when they have a grav is kind of counterproductive, because the whole point of Visor is that A, you hit 100% of your shots as body shots, but B, it transfers targets instantly. So if there's someone here and someone here, it'll kill them and then instantly start shooting them. But when they're in grav, like, they're all held still and they're all super close, so the target switching doesn't really matter and the accuracy doesn't really matter, because you can just shoot in there and Helix in there and you're good. So if you did want to use Visor, you should wait until after grav to clean up anybody that survived, if your team can't capitalize on grav properly anyway. There you threw down your thing while you're antied. At least you used it, but you know, you're antied, so it's not going to do anything, and it keeps you in a spot. Like, the reason that you want to use your healing field around a corner is because then your options are more open. If you use it on, say, the inside of this board, you're just stuck there waiting while you're waiting to be healed. But if you put it on the corner, you can peek out and then still be productive while you're being healed. Because you notice how when you plop it down, right, you just stick in it no matter what. It's like you're not in a good position right here, but you're staying there because your healing field's there.
Yeah.
Analog.
See, that's one of the Helix fields, or the Helix, wow, healing field. There we go, Jesus. That's one of the healing fields where you're using it for your team more than yourself. If you want to do something like that, I'd put it on payload so that it follows your team. But, you know, you used it, which is solid. Just using it in general seems like your biggest thing, at least in terms of your field. How did you not get shattered there? Dude, this Ryan patch, you'll get shattered from across the map.
Get out, we die.
have one more push. One more push.
Yeah, it's like right here. Unless you're waiting to give the ult charge to your supports, I would just throw
I,
it out.
I was, yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't take the pack.
Yeah. But at this point, you're playing too far up to do it. Like, I would just go back to spawn and give it to him instantly, because right here, you're playing up, so you can meet them closer to point, but you're also putting a lot of assumptions in the fact that you're not going to die, which at like 85 HP, you don't know that for sure. Again, when the soldier was running, you should have reloaded. So here's the example of the Swiffer going on.
Zarya's doing it.
Look at that. It's one of these games that takes forever.
Objective A.
Because they just
Let's get
sit
this
around the
done.
corner.
Again, with the Helix, you didn't know if you were going to be hitting him with it or not. So for Helix,
Just try to spam it to get him off guard.
just
the
spam
high
it.
ground.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to get someone off high ground is just to spam them with your primary fire, and then if they decide to be stubborn and stay up there, then you can Helix to kill them and punish them for it. But if I'm playing like McCree in that scenario, and I see the soldier use Helix, I'm gonna be a lot more comfortable staying up there because I know that I'm not gonna get burst down as easily by him. I could still get burst down by his team, but I know he's not gonna be my problem.
Oh, dang. Yeah.
You see how when you're focusing this McCree down, right? I mean, it'd be better to be going for the Ana at this point because they're both right next to each other and Ana's healing the rest of the team. But, wait for it. Right there, that Helix is what you should in theory be doing. You just happen to miss it this time. But you notice how you were shooting him and he wasn't really doing anything, and then you Helix when he in theory would die. That's better because if you Helix him first, he would have like gotten the Ana to turn around and heal him, or he would have gone up the stairs or into the little cafe thing. The point is that like he would have played a lot safer and then survived. I don't know what the point of turning around was. I guess you're trying to see if your team was there or not.
Ryan 1.
Since they have a Mei, you should save your healing field so that for anything like I've said before, of healing your team or healing yourself around a corner. But, excuse me, you should also use it when you're getting frozen by a Mei, because if she misses the headshot on you, or if her freeze takes longer than normal, it'll save your life, and then you can kill her with a few shots in Helix melee combo, and then boom, you're good to go.
Got this.
Dang it.
Regroup.
No, we got numbers.
While you're waiting to regroup here, I can tell that you're just like waiting, be like, okay, what's going on? But you should still be trying to contribute by shooting at this McCree. You're generally pretty good about it, but your goal in the game is to always be doing something, whether that's dealing damage to somebody, healing somebody, pressuring somebody, or repositioning yourself, or, you know, a few other things, but those are the important ones. As long as you're doing one of those, then you're doing well, or there's room for improvement, but you're always doing something. In this case, you're waiting to regroup, but you're not getting into a better position or a different one at all, and you're not trying to kill that McCree. So this is just wasted time.
We have to go in.
Like, I can tell that you're watching the time up there rather than whoever you're trying to kill. And that kind of claps you, because if you'd have gotten more damage off on that McCree, you probably could have picked him. Maybe, I don't know. But it would have at least been more of a contribution, you know?
Yeah.
We can do it together.
I'll stay in the back line so I can heal you.
I can tell that you win this round. Methinks. Actually, no. I don't know. Because you pushed in.
While I'm off the range,
I'm stupid.
Attackers incoming. Defend objective
You could when you killed the time in the VOD. I'm not 100% sure, actually. But for this point, you're setting yourself up on low ground, which doesn't really make sense. You should be up on the high ground because you can always drop down to the low ground at any point. But getting back up to the high ground is always a lot harder and much more of a time commitment. So if you were just up there to begin with, notice how your team was playing aggressive. As soon as they back up, that's when you start doing work, because the enemy team pushes through that choke, and then they can either block your team or you, but not both. Like, you see how Ryan and Diva put up their things, and now they're blocking everybody except for whoever's behind them. If you're up at the top, too, they'd have to make that decision. It's like, do they want to get frozen by the Mei? Do they want to get shot by the shoulder? By the... wow. Shot by the soldier? Or, you know, do they want to shield your team? I wouldn't be going for this high ground. This high ground's super limiting. It keeps you on a really tiny platform, like, that you can just get knocked off of easily, like, conveniently like that. But if you go to the high ground that's above point, like either cafe or the other place, then you can't really be knocked off as easily unless you're playing really close to the edge. So they have to commit more to getting you off high ground. All they did there to knock you off was send Diva up and boop you. But if you were on either cafe or the other thing, then they have to commit like their full Diva, or if they had a Winston or whatever. They couldn't just half-ass boop you. How close was that game? That was pretty close. Nice. That was a surprisingly quick review. Jesus. That was only like 40 minutes. Is there anything that I brought up that was confusing to you at all? I didn't bring up a whole lot of things, but I did bring up a few.
Everything makes total sense.
Nice. One thing I was going to say is that I'm surprised your aim is as good as it is. Most soldier players, I have to be like, okay, what's your DPI? What's your sensitivity? Why are you so shaky? But your aim is actually a lot better than I thought. Yeah. If you work on your helix timings and your positioning and stuff, you'll climb pretty quick because you have the aim to be a lot higher than plat.
I actually thought my aim is bad.
It's not that bad, honestly. The only times where you seem to struggle are if we go back to like here or whatever. I don't know where this is. Let's see. It was more of the defense bit. It's basically when. Do we get it? Not quite. We'll go back. It's basically when you're up here. That's when you seem to struggle the most because you're shooting at really tiny people way back there. But when you're, say, at the range of the Orisa to whoever that is, I can't tell. But if you're within that range, you seem to be aiming pretty well, and you're decent at tracking people where they're going. So you don't have to worry. I don't have to give my like do some aim hero spiel or whatever, because you're precise. You're not overcorrecting for the most part. The only thing that you seem to struggle with is when you're attacking on last point. Let's see. I don't know where it was. Like here-ish? I don't know. We're gonna kind of scrub through and try and find it. But there's a point where you're behind and everybody's kind of moving in a way that you can't predict as well. And that's when you struggled a lot more. We're getting closer to it. Yeah, it was like right here. It's like there's so many people that you're not quite sure who to aim at.
I can't see that.
Let's see, and then the weird disengage thing.
Get out, we die.
Show me like a loading thing. But
Oh.
I can't see. I'm stuck on one image.
Alright, have one.
Okay, well, there's a point where there's a bunch of people and you can't target prioritize them well enough. But when you've focused on one person and you decide to kill them, your aim is a lot better than I expected. You can always work on it. So if you want to, I suggest aim here or aim lab. But that's not your biggest thing. If you work on aim, you'll improve a bit. But if you work on your helix timings and your positioning and all of that and your target priority, then you'll climb a lot faster. I didn't touch on target priority much because here seems pretty decent, but you want to target people that you can one-shot with helix. So put a few shots into a squishy, kill them, or if you see a tank that's like half or something, clap them. Soldier's target priority isn't strictly defined by this is who I should kill. Like Doomfist is like, okay, kill the supports first and then get out. Soldier's like, you can kill pretty much anybody you want and it's always good. But whoever you decide to helix and who you decide to helix and when you decide to helix is more important and is omnipresent. If you helix for final blows, you're doing the right thing. But if you helix initially all the time, you're doing the wrong thing.
Sometimes if I flank or something and enemy's unaware of me, so sometimes I would just helix and then shoot at the same time.
Yeah, that's
to try
okay.
to burst.
Yeah, that's okay because then you're getting the drop on them and then you're killing them as the helix is flying. But if they're aware of you, then you want to use the helix to finish them off because then they can play.
Yeah.
Then they're consciously playing around your helix. If they don't know you're there, it'd be like, I don't know what it'd be. I'm not going to try and find a specific example, but I guess it'd be like trying to body shot someone as Widow when you have the drop on them. It's like, no, you should go for the headshot first. You have the time to line it up. But if you don't have any questions, which I mean, everything
Um,
seems pretty simple.
What would you think is holding me back the most?
It seems to me your biggest thing is just like contributing all the time. Like when you're contesting that Reaper on high ground, you weren't really doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
So just knowing where you need to be and when you need to be there is your biggest thing. Like if you're contributing to the fight all the time and you're working on topping off your team with your E, and you're working on pressuring people while also maintaining your own high ground, then you'll be climbing a lot faster. Climb like a rocket ship.
It was kind of hard for me to tell. Like okay, so I was fighting the Reaper, but then I knew that I wasn't contributing, although I was occupying the Reaper. But like I couldn't think of alternatives.
Yeah, in that case, it wasn't you occupying the Reaper; it was the Reaper occupying you, because he was still contributing to the fight. Like you notice, he'd shoot at you a bit and then he'd leave. That's because he's leaving
Yeah.
to go do something else. When you left, you just left down the stairs and off of high ground. So
Yeah.
you need to be the one that they're trying to dislodge. So you stay up there. Your goal, being up there, should be to get a high ground advantage over the enemy team. And then if Reaper shows up, then you can contest him off until he goes away. And then when he goes away, you go back to doing what you were doing before. You were doing it in the reverse order of contest high ground, shoot occasionally, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But if it seems like your high ground has been decent, like you're taking it all the time, you're not playing low ground too much. Being on low ground isn't super terrible, but for the most part, you'd rather have high ground to break line of sight. When you're on high ground, you need to remember to use your E all the time. But in general, I'd say you've definitely got potential to climb, and it'll actually be a lot easier than you think.
So focusing on contributing all the time and focusing on my health as well
Yeah,
and helixing.
yeah. Just focus on as many things as you can at once. Like you need to monitor what's going on, like with your ammo and your health, and then you can worry about once you're good with your ammo and your health, then you can worry about like your team's health to start Eing them, or like their ult to start wombo comboing and stuff like that.
Yep.
If you don't have any questions, you're free to go. If you want, I can type up a list of stuff for you to work on. I figured I'd start offering
Yeah,
that
sure.
rather than doing it all the time because you'll have access to the VOD too. I'll upload
Okay.
it later tonight.
Cool.
If you want another session, I typically recommend waiting about a week or so. That way
Yeah,
you can
sure.
apply everything, but still
Yeah,
still good
definitely.
habits. Yeah,
Cool. Thank you so much.
no problem, man. Thanks for showing up.
It was great.
Have a good one.
You too.